I want to talk to you today about Waterloo and Guelph prices relative to Kitchener and Cambridge. They're quite a bit higher, and there's got to be a reason why. That's what I want to talk about starting right now. This is KW Real Estate News and Views for the week of February 23rd. Trust me, folks, spring is just around the corner. Despite looking at the weather on my phone, apparently it's minus 24 tonight with the wind chill. Anyways, let's get back on topic. This is Canada after all. One thing I've noticed in the business, having done this now for well over a decade, there is a premium in Waterloo relative to Kitchener and Cambridge. That premium also exists in Guelph, and it's fairly close to Waterloo prices, a little bit lower, but it's got a university, and Waterloo's got two. Kitchener and Cambridge have none. Is that a factor? Maybe. But anyways, let's look at the data first and then see what that tells us. Anyways, having a look at this data, before I get started, I did one thing. I just did detached properties for the four cities. And the reason I did this is because a huge amount, especially Waterloo's condo market, is in real trouble. And also they built a ton of it. And I don't want that data skewing my samples, actually, for having this conversation today. Most people want to live in a detached property. It doesn't matter where in those four cities you are. Most people want to buy a detached property. It's most of the sales. And I figured getting the condo thing out of the picture, it clears up the waters. That's the long and short of it. Anyways, other thing I wanted to talk to you about as well, before we get started, standard deviation. Now, my girlfriend's a data scientist. This is what she does all day long. She works at the University of Guelph. And standard deviation is, for example, say a city, the average price is $1 million and over the course of a year. And you had one sale that was $4 million and another sale that was, I don't know, 400 grand. Well, that wide gap, that's a high standard deviation. If you had another city that was, average price $1 million, and the highest sale in that year was $1.3 million, and then the lowest was 900 grand. Well, that sample's a lot closer to what the actual average is. So standard deviation plays into these discussions a little bit, and I had a conversation, as I said this morning, with my girlfriend about that exact thing. The thing that's interesting about what I'm going to say, though, is I've got 5 years of data, and if there's a standard deviation between Waterloo, Guelph, Kitchener, and Cambridge, it's been consistent over half a decade. So, talking prices, Waterloo, number one spot for prices 5 years in a row. Guelph, second. Kitchener, third. Cambridge, fourth. And this is a big, big gap. If you look at, for example, Waterloo last year versus Cambridge last year, we're talking $170,000 more expensive to buy a property in Waterloo. And why is that happening? Is it quality of life? Is it jobs? There's a bunch of things to think about with this as well. And I can tell you this, income doesn't quite explain it. If you're looking at the average household income in Cambridge being $108,000 a year, and the average household income in Waterloo is 122 grand, that $12,000 difference in price, that's not going to buy you $170,000 worth of extra mortgage debt. And you know what I'm saying? That doesn't explain that. So looking at those numbers, we're at 108 for Cambridge for household income. We're at 110 for Kitchener. We're at 119 for Guelph. And we're at 122 for Waterloo. So income doesn't quite explain it. I mean, because they say the gaps are so wide. So what is it? That's the $1 million question. I mentioned universities. I do think that is a big driver, especially in Waterloo, because Waterloo's got two universities. They've got, I went to Laurier, that's, the little brother for Waterloo, but I mean, University of Waterloo, it is the STEM university in the country, especially for computer science. There's no question about that. Fantastic engineering department. There's tech jobs all over Waterloo. EQAO scores as well for schools, best in the region. I think an awful lot of people who are buying in Waterloo are after those tech jobs. They want their kids to go to Waterloo, probably a University of Waterloo as opposed to Laurier, and they want their kids going to the good schools. So they are willing to pay a premium to live in Waterloo, no question about it. When you look at Guelph, I think the universities matter there as well, but not quite in the same way. They've only got one school, University of Guelph. It's very agriculture focused as opposed to tech. A great university, but somewhat niche as far as that goes. So the other factor I think that plays into Guelph is proximity to Toronto. And I can say this anecdotally. I had a client, she was working Dixie Road in Mississauga, and she was trying to buy there. And we kept moving further and further and further west, getting away from Toronto before she could finally buy. She ended up in Guelph. That was as far away she could get where prices came down enough where she could purchase. So I think in the case of Guelph, yes, it's a university community. Yes, it's got those same kind of attractions that Waterloo does, but on top of it, you've got that commuter factor. I mean, I live in Guelph now. To get to the airport, it's like a half hour. It's nothing. And that's a bit different animal when you're living in the north end of Waterloo and you've got to get into Toronto. So those two factors, I think, in Guelph, university being there and commuting matters. With Waterloo, I think absolutely it's what Waterloo offers as far as, two universities and the whole prospects for a brighter future for yourself and also for your family. If you're looking for bang for your buck, I mean, buying Cambridge, you're going to get a huge discount relative to what you would get in Waterloo or Guelph, and that goes for Kitchener as well. It kind of splits in the middle. So there's some interesting factors going on here, if you think about it, tied to education, tied to future prospects of homeowners for them and their families that play into the cards with prices. And as I said, this data has been bang, 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 bang with the rankings consistent for 5 years. I don't think it's an anomaly. Anyways, that's all I got for you this week. Thanks so much for watching and have yourself a phenomenal day.